Our next speaker is Cindy Gillespie. She's Managing Director of McKenna Long and Aldridge, and she was also with Mitt Romney in Massachusetts when they instituted their health care plan, and she's a partner with a fellow named Howard Dean. So she's going to channel up her combination of Dean and Romney, and let's hear what happens.
Hi. I am going to talk today about a little bit about Massachusetts, and simply because this is a little tall for me. Okay. Because Ben said a few minutes ago, now there's this thing called an exchange. We're not exactly sure what it is. And here's the thing about health care reform. It's been a long, long battle, I know, for a lot of you. But now that it's passed into law, the real work starts in many ways. Because now you've got to take what was passed into law, and you've got to, here in your state, you've got to take it and you've got to shape it to fit you. And that is a lot of work, as they'll tell you up in Massachusetts, where they've been doing it for the last few years. An exchange, there's a few things I just want to highlight this morning and let you kind of focus on, start thinking about what you're going to be doing in this state. And I know that the state insurance commissioner has been working on this already. The first thing is, an exchange is required by law, obviously. You've got to have two of them, actually, in every state. One is for individuals to buy insurance, and one is for small business. And the first thing a state has to decide is, ooh, excuse me, I need water. First thing a state has to decide is, thank you, is are you actually going to set one up yourself? Or are you going to give it to the Secretary of HHS to do? That's the very first thing. And if a state decides that you're going to establish it yourself, thank you, you have to pass legislation, which I know in New York can sometimes be a bit of a difficult task, okay? So first thing first, you have to pass legislation to establish these two exchanges. You're going to have it done by 2013, because January 1st of 2013, the Secretary is required to look out across America and make a decision. Will each state have one ready to go by January 1st of 2014? If she doesn't think you've made adequate progress, the law says she has to come in and do it herself.
That should be pretty simple in New York. You can have a drink of water for a second. Right, Troy, we can get something passed in a week here. Right, Marvin?
Yeah, figured that would be easy here. So, as you said about trying to figure out what you're going to pass into law, there's a number of things to take into account. First is, what is your exchange going to look, well, first and most important thing maybe, are you going to have one or two? The law will allow you, if you want to have one exchange for both small business and individuals. That's an interesting one, and I would urge you to take a strong look at that core structural question for this reason. There are two operating exchanges in America right now. One is in Massachusetts, the other's in Utah, of all places. The one in Massachusetts has been extremely successful in helping individuals buy insurance and get subsidies. About 200,000 people buy through it right now. The small business end of the Massachusetts exchange, which it was supposed to do, has been very late getting going, primarily because of all the effort that it took to get up and going for the 200,000 individuals, right? So small business kind of got left behind. They started it up last year, hasn't gone well yet. Utah, on the other hand, is focused on small business more than individuals. So their small business one is going really well, but their individual one's not going as well. And it raises the question, can you establish one exchange and really take care of small business and individuals, or not? Probably can, but you got to think it through. That's a core structural thing. Where do you want it to sit? Is it going to be inside government? The one in Utah is inside the government. It's actually in the governor's office, believe it or not. The one in Massachusetts, we created an independent agency. Sits outside, its own board, its own governing, keeps it out of politics. That's the way we looked at it up there. Core structural decision, where are you going to put it? After you go through all that and figure out what you're going to do with it, what's it going to look like, what's it going to do, you get to decide a few other things. Do you want it to do anything besides what the federal law lays out? I'm not going to take the time to go through all these things, but I'll mention one thing. Right now, the federal law does not require an exchange to do something we have ours do in Massachusetts and the one in Utah does. It aggregates. In other words, if you are an individual, if you're a small business and you're buying through the exchange itself is where you make your payment. It does payroll deductions, it collects from the individuals, it aggregates it together, and then it makes one payment to the insurers. Insurers like it better, and frankly, people like it better too, because they're not having to keep up with paying an insurer different bills and all that stuff. The federal law does not require an exchange to do that, but it does allow a state to have their exchange do that if they want to. You got to decide if you want to do that. Other thing, part-timers. You can add to it if you want. Part-timers could be allowed to buy through the exchange with voluntary contributions from their employers. You can create that mechanism if you include an aggregator. We've done that. So you should look at that as a piece to add or not add. When do you want it to start? Law says has to start by January 1st of 2014. The law also says the secretary has the money to get them started early if you want to. We did ours both Utah and Massachusetts have done phased starts. Instead of go live, 1 million people buying all on the first day, we phased ours in over a year in Massachusetts. Took certain populations, those who were uninsured and on free care first, and then moved on population by population. And we had them all up and going in a year. How do you want to do yours? All at once? Phase it in. And the other thing, is there any benefits you want to add? There'll be required benefits that come from the secretary. Are there any that you feel like are in your state you should have? You look at that question. And then maybe the last one is this. How do you define small business here? You have the option. Right now, the law says it's 100. If you have 100 employees or less, they can buy through the exchange. A state can change that to 50 employees or less. But that's a core decision you have to make there. There's a lot of others, but the bottom line is, now what is happening is you have to take what this law has done around exchanges. You got to figure out what it is, how it works, and then how to craft it so it fits you, fits your population, fits your business, fits your insurance market, and fits what your citizens need. And then pass it into law by 2013. Thank you.